Hi, Kevin Coop here, and this is FaceTime with the Content Guy. Today, I know it's going to annoy some folks, but I really want to talk about politics. But I don't want to talk about it just to talk about politics. I want to talk about it because there's a very specific business reason to focus on politics today, or at least politics as it's currently being practiced by some people in the country. Now, I don't want to talk specifically about the whole Breitbart Kellogg's thing. I think we can move past that. Kellogg's decided to pull their ads off the Breitbart alt-right site. They thought it was controversial, not in keeping with their values. Breitbart is accusing them of being anti-American. They're threatening a boycott, and it goes on and on and on. Now, I am happy to say, by the way, that most of the emails that I've gotten in about this story and my comments about the story have sort of agreed with me that Kellogg's did absolutely the right thing. Now, not everybody. I've gotten a couple of emails from people who think that Kellogg's is part of a left-wing cabal to push the country inexorably towards liberalism and progressivism, and eventually we're going to fall off a cliff. But they're in a minority, and I don't know if I find that whole argument to be more amusing or absurd, but we can talk about that another time. Now, today I'd like to talk specifically about some things that have been happening around the country. Things I think that the business community has to pay attention to. I'm talking about what happened recently at a Michael's craft shop in Chicago, where a woman came in and ended up berating the African-American women who were working at the checkout and basically saying to them that they were discriminating against her. It has something to do with a reusable bag. She berated them. It was all caught on camera. People were using the smartphones, and she then berated the customers as well. And basically, her whole position was that she was being discriminated against because she was white. She had voted for Trump, and by the way, Trump won, and they just better be ready to deal with that. And it went viral. It absolutely went viral, and people who were watching it were absolutely appalled. I'm talking about what happened at a Miami Starbucks, where a guy who apparently had to wait too long for his latte got all upset and decided that he was being discriminated against by the African-American baristas, and basically said, hey, listen, again, he was making the point that he was being discriminated against because he is white and because he had voted for Trump. I'm talking about what happened on a Delta flight recently, where a guy decided to get up in the middle of the aisle and start talking about the fact that he had voted for Donald Trump. And he was emboldened, apparently, by the fact that his presidential candidate had won. And it was, again, all caught on video by people who were using their cameras. And he ended up by saying that Donald Trump is your president, every goddamn one of you, and if you don't like it, too bad. It's all caught berating people on the plane. Now, the bad news is that he can kick them off the flight. The good news is Delta has banned them for the rest of his life, and I'm pretty happy about that. Now, to be fair, these are isolated incidents, except that they're not, at some point they don't become isolated incidents, and at some point they can become violent. And that's what happened last weekend at a place called Comet Ping Pong, a really popular pizza parlor in Washington, D.C., where a guy walked into this place with a gun and fired apparently at least a couple of shots. Didn't kill anybody, didn't hurt anybody, but he was there because he was conducting his own investigation of a report that Hillary Clinton and John Podesta, her campaign chairman, were basically running a child sex ring out of the back of this place. And he wanted to go and investigate it on his own. He felt that was his right. Now, let's be clear. They weren't actually running a child sex ring. This is one of those false news stories, fake news stories that cropped up all over the internet, all over social media. And basically, listen, there were a lot of fake news stories out there. I'm sure they affected people and swayed votes on both sides of the aisle. But this guy took it to the next level. And now let's be clear. The report was a load of crap. And the people who originally posted it, and anybody who then sent it on, they are reprehensible because they were just buying into this fake news report that there was absolutely no any factual reporting behind it. But of course, that's how things get spread these days. Now, and by the way, I should point out, this is not a marginal DC neighborhood. This is a place that's got a place across the street called Politics and Prose, one of the most respected bookstores in Washington, D.C. This is a neighborhood where Michael Sansolo finds himself every once in a while. This is a good neighborhood. Not that it matters, but this is what's happening around America. But now listen, here's the business reason you have to think about such things. The employee who may have to put up with this crap from people who come in the store may end up being your employee. The store where this happens next may be your store. The business that is affected by fake news out there may end up being your business. You may get targeted next time by people who may be unhinged by rumors that may have nothing to do with reality, but they may target you anyway. And it doesn't matter if they're unhinged. All this stuff goes viral really quickly. And here's the thing, it could end up in the regular news. It could end up in social media, and it could well end up on YouTube. All of the stories I've referred to you to, they've all ended up on YouTube with millions and millions of views. And you are going to end up being front and center of this political and cultural morass. I don't even want to call it a debate. It's way too fetid to be a good debate. That's not what's happening here. But here's the simple question that you have to ask yourself. Are you ready? Are you preparing your people, the ones who are on the front lines, to deal with this kind of stuff? Have you developed an infrastructure within your company to deal with this kind of stuff? Are you ready to move quickly? And assuredly, when these things happen around the country, they could affect you. They could affect your stores. They could affect your business. And then here's the thing. I could be wrong. I don't think this is going to end anytime soon. I think there's going to be a lot more heat, that there's going to be light. But I think this is going to continue, and it's going to build. I think there's a lot of people out there who feel disenfranchised from the American dream, who are going to run headlong into people who feel like they were being disenfranchised from the American dream and now have a chance to grab it back. I wrote the other day, there's a collision taking place of opinion and emotion and feeling. And I think that basically nerves are exposed, emotions are raw, and a lot more of this is going to happen before it starts to subside. And the question you have to ask yourself is, are you ready? Anyway, that's what's on my mind this morning. And as always, I want to hear what's on your mind.